has been started. So once again, our quick disclaimer. This call is being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now, as also this call is joined by our Microsoft team members as well as members from other organizations, our partners, our customers. So if you're not comfortable, you can drop off now. So happy Friday. I hope everybody is doing well. Today we have couple of topics around app service, and we're going to talk about those. So the first topic is app service support for availability zone. And I'm sure if you are working with app service or you're working with customer, this is one of the most asked about topic. A number of customers have asked, um, you know, they want this support, they want high availability with app services at a regional level in the case of a data center failure. And this is now available. It's actually, I think it's in GA. So first of all, just like we always do a quick level set on this topic, what is a region, what is availability zone? So um, not every Azure region, but the region which have availability zone, each zone has separate power provider and a separate network provider. So if and separate cooling. So if one kind of a, for example, power provider is not functioning or something is going on, the entire region doesn't go down. Uh, the way I create a mental picture in my head is think of a pizza pie. I mean, a pizza pie, you have that's a region. Each slice is a zone, and each topping is a data center. So basically, there can be one or more data center in a particular zone. Of course, there are multiple data center in a region, but there can be one and more data centers in a zone as well. And just keep in mind the separation between zone. It can be physical, or it can be they can be the same vicinity in the case where we have to build up, like where real estate is really, really expensive and hard to find. Places like Singapore, where they may be close to each other, but they still have this separation of power, network, and cooling. Okay, enough about that. So how does this plays out um, when we have app service plan deployed across availability zones? So what will happen is, if you know about Azure App Service and App Service Plan is nothing but a web form with VMs running in that form. They are called App Service Plan instances. And by the way, you can have one instance and you can get an SLA. So that's that. But when it comes to zone redundancy, if you deploy an app in a region where zones are available and you enforce that, okay, I need the support for zones, then it will deploy at least one instance in each zone. And so that's what it will do. So that's how it implements. So basically, if you run an app without availability zone support and you don't make any change to the app service instances, it will have one instance. And you can change it, you can scale up, scale down. But if you do it with a with the availability zone support, you will have at least 3 instances. Okay. And the number of instances will depend on, I mean, basically, you have to, there is some kind of a calculation that you will have to do to find out how many instances you need. So, for example, but this is the recommendation, and you will see in the documentation as well. So, for example, your app needs a minimum of 4 app service instances. And by the way, I'm not talking about web apps, I'm talking about actual app service plan. So your app is running on an app service plan, it needs at the minimum of 4 instances to run. So based on the calculation that is provided in the documentation, you will need at least 6 instances. So it's basically multiplied by 1.5, which is zone divided by zone minus 1. Normally there are 3 zones, and so why this is? So if one of the zone goes down, you still have the capacity available to run your app successfully. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Any questions? Okay. And by the way, you didn't have to do anything special with your app. You don't have to kind of make any code changes. Okay, now my app is running on an availability on an app service plan which has running across availability zone. No, you don't have to do anything. Everything is taken care of by the underlying infrastructure. You just have to pay extra for these instances that are running. And there are some requirements. First of all, you cannot run it in every region. It will run in the region where there is zonal support available. Okay, availability zone support. And these are the region on the right hand side. Okay. And by the way, it may be a subset of the region where availability zones support is available in the case where this feature hasn't made its way through. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay. On the supported both for it is supported both for Windows and Linux. And just keep in mind, it's only supported for premium V2 and V3 instances. Okay. And as I said before, minimum instance count is 3. So it's a premium service. So think of it, if you need availability zone support, you cannot do it with free or standard or basic. You have to have P1, V2 or P1, or sorry, PV2 or PV3 instances available. Okay. It will not, I mean, you cannot upgrade any existing instances that are running without availability zone support to an availability zone support, because the thing is, it's a new infrastructure, new stamps, app service stamps that are being deployed. So if you are running on an existing app service plan and you want to upgrade that, that's not possible at the moment. What you can do is create a new infrastructure. you, let's say that you are in Best US2 and you are running an existing application, which is, of course, doesn't have zonal support, and you want this zonal support. What you can do, create another app service plan with zonal support, deploy your application, test it out, and then migrate. That's the only path available at the moment. Okay. And the thing is, it's based on the capacity. So you may, if you are trying your existing resource group and you are trying to create a new app service plan, you may say, hey, I am in West US2, and in this resource group, I'm trying to create a zonal deployment for my app service plan. It's not happening. It says there is no capacity. Try creating a new resource group, because your resource group may be tied to a app service stamp which does not have zonal support, because you already have an app service plan running without zonal support. So just keep those things in mind. This document, very thorough, very helpful. I have a link to this document, and these bullet points are right from that document. So just take a look at that and make sure you follow it, so that you know so that you can do the deployments. One last thing, at the moment, it has to be created from the ARM templates. Right now, I don't see any support from the UI or from the CLI. So you have to create it. By the way, once you create that, you can manage it just like any other app service that you do from um, from the portal or CLI. It's just that you cannot create it at the moment from ARM template. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So let's quick demo. Um, there is not much to demo here. I just want to show you this. So this is an ARM template that I have created for my app, and I don't want to folks bore you to death on what is in this ARM template. Just focus on the highlighted section. Okay. So first of all, you have to be, it has to be P1, V2, or P2, V2, or basically V2 or V3. P, V2 or V3. Okay. That's that. Capacity. This is very important. Capacity has to be the right 3 or 6, depending on, because you want to deploy it across zone. Okay. And finally, this property, zone redundant is true. Once you do that and run your um, this ARM template in Azure, it will create you a app service plan with zone redundancy. So let's go there. Uh, let's let me go to home, app services, zone. Yeah, here we go. So let me show you the plan here. First of all, okie dokie, here is the plan. So this is the plan I have created, and look, zone redundancy enable. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing is, if I go into the scale out, it already is set to 3 instances. Okay, and by the way, just keep in mind over there, remember I showed you the template. If I set it to 1 and I have the zone redundant available, it's gonna enable, it's gonna change it to 3 automatically. So it will force it to make it to 3, because remember, it has to deploy it across different zone, and you have to, pay for that cost. So that's bring up another question. Do you really need the zone redundancy? And that's important question you have to ask. Um, does your app needs that? Okay. Um, is your app, I mean, let's say if you are doing deployment, or do you need to do a deployment across another region? Because if zone redundancy is very important, but it does not protect you from a regional failure. So if the whole region is out, you still zone redundancy will not buy you much. So if your application needs to be up in the case of region is out, then you may want to invest in another region and use something like Azure Front Door to load balance across those regions. Okay. But if your app is regional specific and you need that, um, regional support, definitely go for it. So that's an important thing and distinction to keep in mind. So with that, I mean, as you can see here, this is 3, and from here, so I can manage this app without any issue. But if I have to create it, I have to create this with with an ARM template. So for example, this is the app that is running, looks like, behaves like any other um, app. This is, as you can see, I can go in there and play with it, all that. So any questions on this before we move further? Okey-doke. So let's go back to our slide deck, and there is another topic. Okay, so I'm sure you are aware of keyword references. If you have played with app service, I mean, app service allow you to store configuration. It is called app configuration. You can put your user ID, passwords, or database passwords in it. Customer don't like that sometime, because if somebody goes in and take a look, now the database password or some secret that you have stored is right there. Another way to do it is you uh, put a link or URL of a secret that you have created in Key Vault there. So you go in, create the secret in Key Vault, and then just put a link there, and let your app at runtime load that secret from the Key Vault. But once again, that put onus on the developer to load it, and that kind of causes some other issues where you're now code is loading all that configuration. To resolve that, key vault references were introduced a few years back, and the goal was, okay, you just need to put the URI that you see here. That's one way of doing it. You can put this URI in your configuration at runtime. Key vault app service will load this from key vault and put it in environment variable, and your application will be able to access it. And that's very smart. If you go into the app service and try to look at the environment variable doesn't have the actual value. But they're doing some trick behind the scene where it doesn't show up in the environment variable dump on the administrative stream. Okay, but your application has access to it. So that's a wonderful feature, but it has missing kind of a one thing, which is how you access network restricted key vault. The key vaults, which are either being accessed over private endpoint or accessed through service endpoint, where a network or subnet has only a subnet has access to a key vault. You have to open that key vault to make it work to the world. And some customers, a number of customers actually, they did not like that. They didn't want their key vault open to the entire world. So this is the reference architecture they are looking for. You have a web app. It's integrated to VNet integrated is connected to a VNet. There is a key vault. There, there's secret stored. The private endpoint of the key vault is in the workload subnet, a separate subnet, and that's how they wanted to access these key vault references. Okay, and that's now possible. And here are some of the steps. And one step I want definitely want you to pay attention if you are using Linux web app. So first of all, of course, standard operating procedure. You create a key vault, you create a secret in it, you create a managed identity for your web application, um, enable it, and then give that managed identity access to the key vault. You go into the key vault and you say, hey, this managed identity can get secrets from this key vault. Once that is done, you have to then integrate your app to the VNet, and of course, create a private endpoint of the key vault, drop it into the VNet, and finally run this command. And this is very important for Linux. Right now, this is not out of the box. In the future, you will not need to run this command. For Linux app, all traffic has to go through the VNet, for this to work. And you have to run this command. I know there is something called, I think, VNet route all. That is not enough. You have to run this command. If you have a Linux web app that needs to take advantage of key vault references with network restricted key vault. So that's very important point. Just keep in mind this. Uh, I mean, if you don't run this, it's not going to work. Okay. And of course, with other things, I mean, you have to have managed identity. You have to have all these things done. Then this access will work. And we will go through these steps in the demo one by one. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so let's go through these steps one by one. So this is this is my key vault that I have created. As you can see here, this is a key vault, and I have created a secret. Oh, sorry. This is what happens. So what I did not give firewall access to myself. So that's not going to work. Let me get what is my IP? I always forget my IP. Okay, Where's my IP address? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this IP address here, and that will unblock my machine, which is I'm running. This is the IP address of my outbound. So that, and then we go into the access policy, sorry, secrets. So you see there is a secret message that has been created. Then let's jump back to the app service. So I'm gonna go in here and let me go to okay, 1 second. Let me go to app services. Is that okay? 1 second. That should be in the Linux app plan. Yeah, this is the one. Sorry. So this is my app service. And if you go in here in identity, I have turned on the managed identity on. Just keep that in mind. I go into the key vault. In the access policy, I have given access to this key. So this is the access. I just did get and list. That's the only access I have given to the managed identity of my app. So this is the identity piece. Just keep in mind, this is the identity piece. You have to do it. Without that, no matter what you do, it's not going to work. Okay. So that's basically identity-based protection. Okay. Now let's talk about the network-based, what we have done. I have created in the key vault a private endpoint, and this endpoint is dropped into the same VNet where my app service is integrated. So just keep in mind the private web app PL subnet, and let's go in here and let's click on networking, and let's click on VNet integration. You see, same VNet, of course, different subnet because it needs a dedicated subnet to integrate. So they are both in the same VNet. All of that is there. Okay. I have already run that command. And one last piece of the puzzle, if you go in here in configuration, look at that. This is the configuration that I have set. Okay. And the proof is this is showing it green. So it is detecting that, though it is accessing it over a private endpoint through VNet integration. And just to show you, this is the value of the secret. This is going to show up when I run my web app. This is a known secret. This is a secret everybody knows. So this is the value of the secret. So that's the point. It's simple. This simple web app just displays the secret on the first page. So very simply, you can now access those key vault reference, take full advantage of those without doing much work, and at the same time, be secure. So you don't have to worry about, okay, I have to open my key vault for all access. Oh yeah, let me show you my key vault one more time. So this is my key vault, and this is the networking. As you can see, it's not open. That's why I wasn't able to access it. I have to open this firewall address. It's only allowed for private endpoint and selected network, including, my home network, but that's it. That's all. So that's kind of, these are the two things I wanted to talk about. Just a quick recap. We have support for availability zones now in Azure App Service. Just keep in mind that this is only for new instances, certain region. Just keep that in mind. Go through the document. It's the few things that you need to understand. You can only create it with ARM templates, and you cannot migrate at the moment existing applications to a zonal application. And just one thing in terms of cost, just be aware there will be 3 instances running. Minimum, at the minimum, there will be 3 instances that you will need, one deployed across each zone. Okay, that's one thing. Second part, key vault references. Now they are available. Um, uh, you can use them across. You can use them against network restricted key vaults. What that means, the key vaults where you are using either a private endpoint or you are using service endpoints. So both of these scenario are now unblocked. You can access it. Just keep in mind, make sure you follow these steps. And this step, as I said, which is calling a CLI, this is only for Linux web apps, and it is only for the time being. Once uh, uh, they're kind of making updates, so it will not be needed um, in the future. Okay. Any questions? I know we have 3 more minutes. Questions, comments, feedback? Okay, so since there are no questions, what I will do is I will post the slides in the um, post the slide deck, in our YouTube channel. Look at the description, and that's where you're gonna have the link to the slide deck, and the slide deck has the link to our YouTube channel and things like that. All that website, if you want to know what sessions are coming up. So with that, I will give everybody 2 minutes back and hope to see everybody next week. Stay safe, folks, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a good one.